In the year 1086, while London was a bustling medieval hub of stone and wood, an equally massive metropolis was thriving across the Atlantic in what is now the American Midwest. This is the story of Cahokia, a master-planned city that rivaled the European capitals of its time before vanishing into the soil. For centuries, history books claim the North American continent was a sparsely populated wilderness before European arrival. But the ruins of Cahokia tell a different, far more complex story. We are talking about a civilization that engineered pyramids as large as Giza, mapped the cosmos with timber, and commanded a trade network spanning half a continent. But the true mystery isn't just how they built this London of America. It is why, after just 300 years of dominance, they abandoned it completely, leaving behind a ghost city that later tribes refused to settle. Was it war, disease, or a catastrophic climate event that turned their gods against them? Today we are peeling back the layers of dirt and myth to reveal the startling new evidence, from forensic bioarchaeology to ancient gut bacteria, that finally explains the rise and fall of America's lost city. Most ancient cities grow slowly over centuries, expanding street by crooked street as populations swell, but Cahokia was different. It was born in an instant. Archaeologists from the University of Illinois call it the Big Bang of 1050 CE. Before this date, the region known as the American Bottom, a fertile floodplain of the Mississippi River, was dotted with small, simple villages. But seemingly overnight, everything changed. The old settlements were intentionally razed, burned to the ground to wipe the slate clean. On top of the ashes, a master plan was laid out with mathematical precision. Imagine standing on the banks of the Mississippi River in 1050. You would see thousands of people converging on this spot, immigrants from hundreds of miles away, all participating in the largest infrastructure project north of Mexico. They weren't just building homes, they were terraforming the earth. The population exploded to between 10,000 and 20,000 people in the city center alone, with up to 40,000 inhabiting the greater metropolitan area. To put that in perspective, Cahokia was larger than London or Paris at that exact moment in history. It would take the United States nearly 600 years to build a city of this size again, not surpassing Cahokia's peak population until Philadelphia in the 1780s. This wasn't a tribe, it was a centralized state. The builders of Cahokia didn't just pile dirt, they engineered a cosmogram, a physical map of the universe on Earth. At the heart of this grid stood Monks Mound, a colossal earthen pyramid rising 100 feet into the air. Covering 14 acres at its base, it has a larger footprint than the Great Pyramid of Giza. What makes this feat even more mind-bending is that the Cahokians had no beasts of burden, no wheels, and no metal tools. Every single cubic foot of that mound, 22 million cubic feet of soil, was carried in woven baskets on human backs. Recent geological core samples taken from Monks Mound reveal a sophisticated level of engineering that rivals modern techniques. The mound was not just a pile of loose dirt, it was built in alternating layers of different soil types. They used dark, organic clay to create internal buttresses and caps, which retained moisture and prevented the structure from drying out and crumbling. Sandier soils were placed between these clay layers to allow for drainage. This demonstrates a deep, technical understanding of soil mechanics and hydroengineering, ensuring the massive structure wouldn't slump under its own weight or dissolve in the heavy rains of the Midwest. Directly south of this mountain lay the Grand Plaza. For years, researchers assumed this was just a natural flat field, but recent excavations revealed it is a 50-acre artificial landscape. The builders shaved off the tops of ridges and filled in ravines to create a perfectly level stage for their rituals, moving almost as much earth for the plaza as they did for the mound itself. And to the west stood Woodhenge, a massive solar calendar made of red cedar posts. These posts, aligned with the rising sun of the equinoxes and solstices, allowed the priest rulers to track the seasons and dictate the agricultural cycle. The city was oriented 5 degrees off true north, aligning not with a compass, but with the maximum southern moonrise, a rare lunar event that happens only once every 18.6 years. This was a city built to speak to the sky. Quick question for you. If you had to build a 100-foot pyramid using only baskets of dirt, how long do you think you'd last? Let me know in the comments if you think you could survive a day in the Cahokian labor force. For decades, our understanding of who ruled Cahokia was based on a single misunderstood discovery: the beaded burial of Mound 72. Excavated in the 1960s, this burial mound contained two central bodies laid out on a bed of 20,000 shell beads arranged in the shape of a falcon, or the birdman, a central figure in their mythology. Archaeologists originally identified them as two powerful men, warrior chiefs who ruled with an iron fist. This fueled the long-standing theory that Cahokia was a male-dominated, patriarchal warrior society. But in 2016, a team led by bioarchaeologist Thomas Emerson re-examined the bones using modern skeletal analysis, and the results shattered the old narrative. The two central figures were not two men. They were a male and a female, a divine couple. This discovery rewrote the political history of the Mississippian world. It suggests that power at Cahokia wasn't held solely by men, but was likely shared between the sexes, perhaps representing a dual-gendered nobility or a brother-sister dynasty that mirrored the balance of the cosmos. However, their power came at a horrifying cost. Buried beneath this royal couple were the bodies of 53 young women, aged 15 to 25. Forensic analysis shows they were not foreign captives taken in war. Isotope levels in their bones prove they were locals. They were the daughters of Cahokia, sacrificed, strangled, or clubbed to accompany the elite couple into the afterlife. But the horror of Mound 72 did not end there. In a nearby pit, archaeologists found another mass grave containing 4 men. These men had been decapitated and their hands cut off. This specific mutilation suggests a ritual reenactment of a mythic story, likely related to the Red Horn cycle, a hero figure in Mississippian lore. This theater of violence proves that the rulers of Cahokia held absolute power over life and death, commanding a religious devotion that demanded the ultimate sacrifice from their own citizens. Cahokia was not a monoculture. It was a vibrant, chaotic melting pot. Isotope analysis of teeth found in the city's residential districts reveals that 1/3 of the population was not born there. They were immigrants, drawn to the city by its religious prestige and economic power. This influx of people created a diverse society that relied on a massive trade network. We see evidence of this reach in the pottery found in Cahokian trash pits. Researchers have discovered chemical residues of theobromine and ursolic acid inside these ancient mugs. These are the chemical markers of black drink, a highly caffeinated tea made from the yaupon holly plant. Here's the catch. Yaupon holly only grows on the Gulf Coast, over 500 miles away. This confirms that Cahokia was the hub of a continental trade system, importing caffeine, marine shells from the Atlantic, and copper from the Great Lakes in every direction. The Cahokians were also mass producers. In a specialized workshop known as the Mound 34 area, archaeologists found evidence of large-scale copper crafting. The artisans here were annealing and hammering copper into religious artistic plates, which were then exported to distant villages to enforce the Cahokian religious ideology. Life in the city revolved around the game of chunky. Played on the Grand Plaza, this high-stakes sport involved rolling a stone disc and throwing spears to predict where it would stop. It wasn't just a pastime, it was a ritualized gamble used to resolve disputes and distribute goods. The obsession was so intense that chunky stones have been found in graves, suggesting the game was essential even in the afterlife. But this dense urban living had consequences. Analysis of skeletal remains shows that the Cahokians suffered from poor dental health, with high rates of cavities. This was the result of a diet that consisted of nearly 70% maize. While corn allowed for the population boom, it was a nutritional trap, leading to protein deficiencies and spread of infectious diseases in the cramped living quarters. The city was a place of opportunity, but it was also a place of squalor and stress. But the golden age of Cahokia could not last. Around 1175 CE, the mood in the city shifted from religious ecstasy to paranoia. We know this because they started building walls. A massive wooden palisade, 2 miles long and featuring guard towers spaced every 70 feet, was erected around the central precinct. To build this wall required 20,000 oak and hickory logs, stripping the surrounding forests even further. Forensic evidence from the post molds shows that this wall was built in a hurry. It cut straight through existing neighborhoods, slicing through houses and public spaces. And here is the telling detail. The wall didn't enclose the entire city. It only protected the elite district, Monks Mound, and the Grand Plaza. This wasn't a defense against an invading army. It was a barrier between the haves and the have-nots. It suggests that as resources became scarce, the commoners turned against the elites. The city was tearing itself apart from the inside, and the rulers were barricading themselves against their own people. So, what killed Cahokia? For years, the leading theory was ecocide. The idea that the Cahokians foolishly cut down all their trees, causing erosion and flooding that destroyed their crops. It was a convenient cautionary tale, popularized by authors like Jared Diamond. But it was wrong. In 2021, a study published in Bioarchaeology by Caitlin Rankin analyzed the soil strata and found that the ground surface remained stable throughout the city's life. There was no man-made environmental disaster. The real culprit was hidden in the mud of Horseshoe Lake, waiting for modern science to find it. In 2019, researchers analyzed ancient fecal stenols, molecular markers of human gut bacteria preserved in the sediment. By measuring the concentration of these molecules, they could estimate population levels over time. The data showed a massive drop in population beginning exactly at 1150 CE. This decline coincides perfectly with a hydroclimatic shift. After a long period of favorable weather, the region was hit by megafloods from the Mississippi River, followed immediately by the onset of the Little Ice Age, which brought severe summer droughts. The priest rulers claimed their authority came from their ability to control the cosmos and the weather. When the floods destroyed the maize crops and the rains failed to return, their divine mandate evaporated. The people didn't vanish into thin air, they voted with their feet. They realized their leaders had lost their power, and they simply walked away, migrating south and west to join other tribes. By 1400 CE, Cahokia was abandoned. The area became known as the Vacant Quarter, a region that later Native American groups actively avoided for centuries, perhaps viewing it as a cursed land where the balance of the world had been broken. By the time European settlers arrived, the wooden temples atop the mounds had rotted away, and the great solar calendars had fallen into the earth. The ruins were so massive that 19th century Americans refused to believe indigenous people had built them, inventing racist myths about a lost white race to explain the engineering. Tragically, in the 19th and 20th centuries, many of the satellite mound groups, including a massive complex in what is now St. Louis, were bulldozed to make way for urban development, earning St. Louis the nickname Mound City before the mounds were erased forever. But science has finally given the credit back to the ancestors of the Native American tribes who still live in the region today, such as the Osage, Ponca, and Omaha. Cahokia stands as a testament to human ambition, a reminder that even the greatest cities can fall when the climate shifts and the social fabric tears. If you enjoyed this deep dive into America's lost ancient history, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. We have more mysteries to uncover. This is Ancient Chronicles HD. Thanks for watching.